Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Finds Out His Reincarnation Truth and Left Rias Peerage Part 3. Chapter 10. Rematch Dragon vs Phoniax. As they were training in magic, Issei found a lot of interesting things about Elsha. She told him that she was high-class from birth, born between Russian boyar that served the emperor and the Norwegian Valkyrie. Her great affinity for magic and her understanding of battle tactics and strategy made her great ally to both pantheons. So to prevent the war over her, it was decided by both leaders of the pantheons that Elsha would become champion of both Odin and Perrin. But that decided she was constantly trained in both Norse and Slavic magic and combat skills. While she was training, she would be given missions by both factions to do, so she could gain battle experience, which later was proven critical as she helped Russians in their struggles against Ottomans and Norse countries against the Holy Roman Empire. Though she also did supernatural missions like assassinations and/or being an ambassador for both factions. As their time for training was nearing its end, Elsha decided to make Issei do one last thing before ending it. Now Issei, I will show you something that could be useful to you in the future. So close your eyes and concentrate hard and try to manifest your gear here and then enter it. I will help you in this. Elsha told him in her calm and sweet voice. Nodding, Issei did what he was instructed, but even after 5 minutes, he couldn't go past the bringing his gear. So Elsha decided to give him a little magic boost. Taking his hands in hers, ignoring his insecurity, she started concentrating and transferring small bursts of magic to him. Issei would lie if he did say that he didn't enjoy Elsha holding his hands. Her soft and gentle skin, her soft smile and warm voice, her killer body, the big breast was really turning Issei on, and his blush becomes the even more crimson if possible. He was barely controlling himself from groping her or pinning her down. But he also knew that even if he could gain an advantage of surprise, it would only last shorter than a second before Elsha would beat the shit out of him. So for now, until become stronger, he would wait and hope that maybe there is a chance to bring her back to life. But that didn't mean that he couldn't check her out and make a genuine scan of her features. Issei, concentrate, I know that you are a highly hormonal teen, but this for your own good. Elsha scolded him a little, seeing him check her out. Not that she minded at all, she knew what effect she had on him and she knew that he was in puberty, but for now she needed him to focus. Sorry. Issei apologies, bowing his head down, hoping that she wasn't mad at him. Though Elsha just smiled at him. He was way too honest and innocent. Even if he was a perv, he didn't try to lie to her about it. That was one of the things that she started to like about him. His honesty and his will. She saw the game that he fought against Riser and she was genuinely surprised that he was that strong, even though he managed to unlock his gear only 2 months ago. Don't worry Ice, I'm not mad, but I need you to focus, and after that, you will take a short break and go to Drake for more training. Okay, sweetie. She told him gently as she stroked his cheek, giggling a little as she saw his face turn from red to white at the mention of dragon training in an instant. Calming himself a little bit, he nodded and continued to do what he was again instructed. After few more attempts, he finally able to enter it. What he saw was all a blur, but before he could continue to focus on it, he was thrown out of it. Opening his eyes, he saw that Elsha had a big grin on her beautiful face. Raising an eyebrow only made Elsha laugh. If that was a good attempt Ice, I'm proud of you, you managed to be in it for 10 seconds. I honestly expected you to be there for 2-3 max. Why did you want me to do it anyway? It was hard as hell doing it. Issei said as he felt exhausted. If that's for me to know and you sweetie to find out. Elsha replied in a sing-song tone with a wink that made Issei red. Oh okay Elsha, he stated nervously, a little bit feeling his blush worsen. Now Ice, it's time to go and training with Drake. Good luck, you will need it and have fun. Was the last thing Elsha said before snapping her fingers, sending Issei towards Drake. Issei saw the mischievous smile she had when she told him that final part, causing him pale, knowing that his partner was a battle maniac. Training with Drake proved to be just like Issei had imagination. He would get scorched, bruised, sent flying around, screaming in pain and nearly dead. Though just like Elsha said, when he woke up he didn't feel tired or injured. But he could still felt the pain he felt in the mindscape, and that made him flinch every now and then, just from the though. As his remaining days, until the wedding night passed by, he felt that he still needed more power before he was ready to get at that damned phoenix that nearly murdered him in the game. As the time of the party neared closer, Issei decided to ask Drake and Elsha if there is anything else that he could do to gain even just a bit more power to defeat that bird. There is Ice a way to gain more power, but Elsha started to answer him until she trailed of letting Drake finish it. A partner, you will need to sacrifice a part of your body for me to feed you more of my power. But it will also make you even more vulnerable to dragon-slaying items and magic. Drake finished it, making Issei widen his eyes. So if I want to beat that damned fire chicken, I need to give you a part of my body? Issei questioned, wanting to confirm what Elsha and his partner told him. Yes Issei, if you want to beat him you need to give a part as an offering to Drake. That will give you enough power to enter Balance Breaker and beat him. But know this, when you do this there is no turning back from it, think about it carefully Ice. Also, note that when you do that you will start getting greater friends and enemies even more and quicker, since your dragon aura would strengthen. Elsha explained it to him. Issei started thinking about what both of them told him. Even though he didn't want to do it, to gain more power this way, he knew that it was necessary to win. If he was honest with himself he would much prefer to win it with his own power, but he knew that at this point in time that it was impossible. But if he won, he would be a step closer to his freedom and maybe down the line, he would be able to help someone else break free from the chains that locked her away. Sure, gaining new even more powerful enemies is very bad, but the extra power could help a lot more in the long run. Seeing more pros than cons, Issei decided to go with it. Drag, what part of my body you want? Issei asked finally. Ice, are you 100% sure about this? Elsha questioned. Yes Elsha. I thought out all of the pros and cons, and honestly, there is a lot more pros than cons in the long run. He answered her before he again asked his dragon. So partner, have you decided which part? With a heavy sigh, Drag told him your left arm, Issei Haidu. That's the payment I, Drag, the Red Dragon Emperor want for the power I will grant you. Issei, you need to formally say I, Issei Haidu, wielder of the booster gear, accept your demand Drag, the Red Dragon Emperor. Elsha explained the rest of the procedure to him. Nodding his head, Issei repeated what Elsha told him. I, Issei Haidu, wielder of the booster gear, accept you demand Drag, the Red Dragon Emperor. Very well, my power is now at your disposal. When Drag finished his sentence, Issei felt his power skyrocket, he felt like he could conquer the whole world with. Just to inform you, partner, you are now able to enter the balance breaker, but there is a catch, you can only stay in it for 10s max. Drag informed him, getting Issei's attention. Though what Drag didn't tell him was that he was already at the point where he could enter his balance breaker. Though he hoped that if he pushed hard enough, Issei's emotions will unlock it. Oh really Drag? Can I use it now? Issei asked, stunned that the legendary move was now within hand's reach. Yes partner. But remember, to beat the bird you need to break his spirit or to exhaust him to the point where his regeneration won't work. Drag remained him. Issei, I could help you in that, though I would also need payment for granting this to you. Elsha suddenly spoke, making Issei and Drag stunned. You can? Though what is the payment? Issei asked. It's really simple actually, but I will tell you about it after the fight. Though do I have your word that you will keep a promise of doing whatever I ask for a payment? Elsha told him. I shall keep my promise Elsha, I will do anything that you ask of me. He answered firmly and honestly, making Elsha smile. Very good Ice. When the time comes I will give you enough strength to beat the chicken. Alrighty then, it's time to crash the party, beat the crap out of that fried chicken, and save that bitch from him. Issei shouted as he pumps his fist upright. Taking the pamphlet that Grafia gave him, Issei flared out a little bit of his power, making the magic circular appear under him, teleporting him to the place of the party in a flash of light that made him close his eyes. As soon as he opened his eyes, Issei was speechless at what he saw. In front of him was a huge European castle that had massive stone walls with also massive watchtowers that dominated everything except the castle's main building itself. Wow, look at this place, it's massive, Issei thought as he entered the compounds of the castle. While making his way towards the main building, he realized that he was in the Phoenix territory. They had many sculptures of the legendary bird, all in pure gold, with fire coming out of their mouths, pictures of many heads of the House of Phoenix, though when they were getting closer to the chamber where the wedding was to happen, all three of them saw something that made their blood boil. It was a picture of the Great War from what the trio could tell, but what made their anger skyrocket was that in it was shown a none other than Drag in his former full glory, fatally stabbed by a spear of fire that went from one side all the way through the other with his blood all around the ground. If Issei's anger was huge, then Drag's was extremely massive. Issei was terrified as he felt his partner anger, he could practically feel Drag fighting himself to control the rage he got from the picture. Issei quickly jumped and tore the picture into pieces, getting a thank you from the heavenly dragon. Heading closer to the chamber, Issei was met with a few dozen guards that were positioned to guard the entrance of the party so no one could interfere. But to Issei, it was all but a nuisance as he manifested his gear and charged at them. As the little battle for the entrance to the party was underway, in the grand chamber, many high-class devils and heads of the remaining pillars, their peerages, and mayus were seen talking and enjoying the party and what would happen soon. Both Risers and Rias Peerage were present, though while one group was happy, the other was very depressed at the thought of their master marring that pig. Though all of them were unaware that soon they will meet a very pissed off dragon that was in a rage and off for blood. Soon enough, Riser appeared in an elegant and formal clothing with a white suit with red accessories, white paints, and black shoes. Getting everyone's attention as he walks a little bit forward before speaking. Hello everyone, I Riser Phoenix, welcome you all to this great marriage between both the House of Phoenix and House of Gremory. Now I will introduce you to my beautiful future wife. With a snap of his fingers, Rias Gremory appeared in all her glory in white wedding, dressed with white gloves that went all the way to her forearms with crimson high, a huge applaud and cheers from the massive people. But suddenly it stopped as they heard screams coming from the other side of the double doors. Before anyone could question what was happening, the double doors were destroyed in a massive explosion that ripped through the room, making a huge smoke screen. Many were wondering what happened, elders and heads of the other pillars were demanding an explanation from the Phoenix members, but before they could answer, a cold voice cut them short. "Damn guards, I told them to stay out of my way, oh well they won't bother me anymore." The voice spoke. "Who are you? What are you doing here? Can't you see that there is a special event going on?" Riser shouted to the figure, only getting an energy blast to his chest as an answer to his questions, making him grunt a little as he hit the wall behind him from the blast. Riser got to his feet, wiping a small amount of blood from his lip before he regenerated like nothing happened. "You damned fried chicken, shut up or the next attack is going to your head and I won't go easy on it like previously," Issei yelled as the smoke cleared, letting people in the room see him with his gear out. "You peasant, what are you doing here? How did you come here in the first place?" Riser shouted again, which made Issei create an orb of energy in his hand, readying his attack again. "I'm here to take back Rias Gremory, and if it means I need to beat your shitty ass, then I will do it, you belong in a KFC anyways," Issei shouted, making some of them gasp and others to get angry at the insult, particularly Riser. Though when Rias saw Issei, she let alone tear fall at the thought of him coming to her rescue, while all of the members of the orc surrounded Issei to stop any guard that might try and stop him. Seeing them, Issei stopped gathering energy for his attack. "Ufifif Issei, nice of you to come, hope you don't mind our little help." Akeno told him in her sadistic tone as lightning was dancing around her fingers. "Nice to see you come also, Issei." Kibo also greeted him as he created two swords in his hands. "You're late," was Kaneko's greeting to him, though he saw that she was grateful that he came to help Rias. "Finally you showed your lazy ass here, you weakling," Rainer told him, making him sweat drop. "Sorry to keep you waiting guys, I needed to take care of some annoying pets down the hall." Issei replied to them as she scratches his head a little bit. "Everyone stand down." A calm voice full of power and authority told them as everyone stopped and released their weapons and magic. The owner of the voice was a tall and handsome red-haired man with soft blue eyes. He was wearing what Issei could guess to royal armor. He could almost immediately say that he was like Aria's, only a male version of her and with a buck-tone more power. "Lord Surzich's Lucifer, what is the meaning of this?" One of the elders spoke, not liking the idea of Amayu interfering. "It's really simple actually. I very much enjoyed a rating game between both Riser and my little sister. Though I would say that the finish was a little anticlimactic. It was still a good match though." Surzich's told them, simply, clearly hiding what his intentions were. "So Lord Lucifer, you say that the match between both Rias and Riser was all for nothing?" Riser questioned. No, the match was for real, Riser, and I applaud you for your power and your extremely good use of it. It would be bad if Amayu said that the result of it wasn't good, it would look bad to the older generation." Surzich's smoothly told him. "Then what are you saying, Surzich's?" Another red-haired man told him, making Surzich's turn to him with a small, barely noticeable smirk. "Like I said, father, I plan on making this event even more spectacular. Tell me what is better than a battle between a phoenix and dragon?" he asked his father. Seeing his father nod after thinking a little bit made Surzich's make a small smile before turning back to Issei and Riser. "You boy, what is your name?" he asked in a voice still full of authority, but it wasn't harsh, it was soft and warm. Nodding, Issei replied the man. "My name is Issei Haidu, a student of the Kuo Academy, the current Red Dragon Emperor, and pawn of Rias Gremory." "Very well, Issei, what are your intentions for coming here?" Surzich's asked while faking his curiosity, which little surprised Issei. He is a good actor, I will give him that. Issei thought as he decided to play this little game. "It's simple, Lord Lucifer. I'm here to bring Rias Gremory back, it's boring back home without her being there. And I'm sure that she could find a better husband than this fried chicken." Issei replied with a small bow at the end, not missing a small smirk coming from the red-haired man. "Riser, what do you say about showing us one last time the beautiful power at your disposal? It would make this evening even more entertaining for both people here and Rias and me." Surzich's asked with a little narrowed eyes, daring him to refuse. Seeing that look, Riser's sweat dropped a little bit before nodding. If the great Lord Lucifer asks, then Riser would be more than happy to make his final show of power. Giving him a nod, Surzich's turned to Issei and asked something that shocked all the people in the hall. "Issei Haidu, what would you like if you win this little match? It could be anything you desire. Power, woman, peerage, gold. Lord, what are you saying? How can you do this?" An elder shouted in rage, seeing what Surzich's was doing. "What? I asked him to fight for the entertainment for my little sister's wedding party, so it's only reasonable that we give him something in return," he answered in laid-back voice before returning his attention to Issei. Issei honestly would have liked to just get his freedom back, but that would do more harm than good right now, and he made a deal with Grafia, so he won't turn his back on her now. Well, that is all nice and attractive what you told Lord Lucifer. I ask that when I beat him, you give Rias Gremory freedom back and make it so that she won't be thrown into another marriage agreement without her consent. Issei replied, getting a nod of acceptance from the red-haired Mao. That could be achieved, of course, if you win Issei Haidu. Now let's get this battle started. Surziches told him as he snapped his finger, teleporting everyone at the battlefield that resembled a ring with 4 king pieces on 4 corners. In the middle of the field, Issei and Riser stood glaring at each other. Issei was still in his school uniform, while Riser changed in his fighting attire with a long white-sleeved shirt with a v-neck that showed his chest and black pants with also black shoes. You peasant, you will pay for this. Riser will destroy you. Riser told him in treating tone as he took his stance. Issei however completely ignored him as he turned to Rias. Permission to promote? He asked, getting a nod from teary-eyed Rias. Nodding, Issei also took his stance as the gear appeared and started boosting him. You can do this, Ice, was all that members of the orc thought at the same moment. Watching what their comrade would do and hoping for the best. Grafia suddenly appeared in between them, making it clear that she would be a referee in this battle just like in the raiding game. Grafia Lucifuge will be the referee for this match. If I see anything that goes against the rules I will intervene, and the one who broke the rules will automatically lose. Is this understood? Grafia said to both males, only getting a nod as a response. Nodding back, Grafia announced something that shocked Issei and orc members. This will be a one-on-one battle between Lord Riser and Issei Haidu, the Red Dragon Emperor. The stakes are as such. Should Riser win, Issei Haidu would be immediately transferred to Phoenix family, and the marriage would go through without questions. But should Issei Haidu win, the marriage would be dissolved, and Rias Gremory would be free from any other married agreements in the future. Getting over his shock, Issei steadied himself before the battle of his life. Now, without any further ado, let the battle begin, Grafia said as she teleported away. Promotion, Queen Issei shouted as soon as Grafia left, feeling power swelling in his blood as he started to get his surprise underway. Riser would be worried if you were given 3 to 6 months more to train, but in this state, however, Riser will crush you with ease. Riser told him as he stood his ground waiting for Issei to attack him. You know, you are right about that. I'm not genius with magic like Akeno, I'm not expert with a sword like Kiba, nor am I good with pure strength like Kaneko or with healing like Rainer, but you know what? I don't care that I'm not good in any of that. I will show you what happens when you try to kill and insult the heavenly dragon. Issei spoke, his voice was in the being normal, but it ended in a powerful roar that scared most of the audience. Riser, this is what you unleashed, hope you are happy. Welsh Dragon Balance Breaker. Scale Male Issei roared, full of bloodlust that was enhanced by Drag. Welsh Dragon, Overbooster Drag roared as he also started fueling Issei's strength even further. As soon as the devils heard the announcement coming from both Drag and Issei, they knew that Riser was booked. He may be strong, but again it's the titanic powers now at Issei's command. It was like trying to push the mountain. The red flash of light erupted where Issei stood, blocking everyone's side of him. As the light finally died out, everyone was shocked at what they saw. Issei was in red draconic armor that looked intimidating to look at. There were 6 green gems, 2 on his hands and 1 on each of his knees. His draconic helmet had 2 green eyes that made him even more frightening to anyone that faced him. That's a forbidden move. One of the elders said in shock. Hearing that, even the 4 Mayus paid close attention to the battle, waiting to see what the legendary Welsh Dragon Balance Breaker could do. Now the true battle between the bird and the dragon began. Partner, remember, you have only 10s to beat that damned bird. After that, your balance breaker would wear off and you won't be able to use it again today. Drake smoothly lied to his host since he with Elsha knew that Issei, with his training with both of them, reached that point was he needed strong emotions to bring it out. Ice dear, use this opportunity to inflict as much damage you can before you return in your base form. Elsha instructed him, also hiding the same fact that Drake hidden. Nodding, Issei rocketed towards Riser, reading a punch as Riser quickly released his wing and shot towards skies. Issei couldn't stop in time, and he collided into King Peace that was completely destroyed by the impact that occurred. Lifting himself from the rubble, Issei spread out his dragon wings and took to the skies where Riser was waiting for him. Reaching where Riser was waiting for him, he asked in a mocking tone. What's wrong, you Riser? I thought you would crush me, but all I see is you running away from me. Why, you insolent brat, Riser will show you the power even you filthy dragons are scared of. Riser shouted as he charged at Issei at full speed. When they heard his insult, both Drag and Issei were pissed, so Elsha did what was necessary to win this battle. Issei, quickly inhale air and on my mark relisted. Drag, when he attacks you transfer as much power as you can. Elsha explained a quick plan that would at least wear down Phoenix magic stamina a little. Nodding, Issei did what he was told as he relisted his helmet and took a big gulp of air to prepare to fire breath attack that he training with Drag. Well, Drag started boosting Issei as much as possible. Boost, 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 boost. Drake's voice was heard by everyone, widening their eyes a little bit. As the phoenix closed enough for the attack to hit him point blank, Elsha gave her signal. Issei, Drake, do it now, Elsha shouted in Issei's mind. Take this, you bucking chicken, Issei shouted as he relisted his helmet and sent a torment of fire that at first didn't do anything to Riser, that is until Drake did his part in Elsha's plan. Transfer, Drake roared as he sent all collected boost at the torment of fire that engulfed the phoenix. The result were spectacular. Riser was seen falling from the skies and Issei was right on his back reading the punch that he hoped would break his spirit. But Riser quickly regained his bearing and flown to the other side, making Issei hit the ground hard, breaking it. Damned, we weren't quick enough to damage him more. Issei cursed as he stood up again and charged at the phoenix. Riser will admit that was clever and hurt like hell, but now it's my turn. Riser said as he also again charged at Issei with great speed, making both of them disappear only to appear when their fists connected with each other's face. Issei's helmet broke from the impact of Riser's fist, but what shocked Riser was that instead of Issei's brown eyes, they were now green like the jewel in the booster gear. What happened to your eyes, peasant, why are they green? Riser asked Issei as they disengaged from each other. Damned, we weren't quick enough to damage him more. Issei cursed as he stood up again and charged at the phoenix. Riser will admit that was clever and hurt like hell, but now it's my turn. Riser said as he also again charged at Issei with great speed, making both of them disappear only to appear when their fists connected with each other's face. Issei's helmet broke from the impact of Riser's fist, but what shocked Riser was that instead of Issei's brown eyes, they were now green like the jewel in the booster gear. What happened to your eyes, peasant, why are they green? Riser asked Issei as they disengaged from each other. What are you blabbering about, you damned KFC? Issei asked as he put some distance from Riser. Your eyes are now green, why? Riser again asked, still in shock. Don't know, don't care, now where were we? Issei shouted as he again started to charge at him. But as soon as he took a few steps towards Riser, he heard Drake's voice that made him shocked. Time's up, Drake announced as Issei's balance breaker vanished, making Issei's face hit the ground. What? How? Drake, you said 10 seconds, time hasn't expired yet, Issei shouted at the great red dragon emperor. You used more power and that put your body where it can't balance breaker anymore. Drake swiftly lied, come on, you can do it, partner, you need just a little push, Drake secretly thought to himself. Damned, Issei mattered to himself as he felt something lifting him by the neck. Now it's time to knock you out and Rias will be my wife finally. You put up a good fight and like Riser told you, if you had 3 more months you would defeat me. So don't feel bad, you did well. Riser told him honestly as he started to suffocate Issei, hoping to cut his airflow so he would pass out. Issei's image began to become murky as he felt his body given up, but at that moment Elsha decided to try and make him snap back to reality and bring out his true balance breaker. If so you are giving up that easily, Ice. I thought that you would put a much better fight than that. So it looks like what you promised Grafia about saving her sister and I were all a lie. Elsha sighed as she faked being hurt by him, hoping to force his emotions out. What I tried my best agents him, but it wasn't enough. Issei sadly replied. So then that means that you forfeit your freedom and Grafia's sisters and lose your chance on taking me out on a date because you are weak. Should have known that, you know what to think, that Phoenix will humiliate you even more than Rias. Elsha decided to give one last shot before giving up and forcefully taking his body and beating that damn Phoenix. Hearing that, Issei's eyes widened. How could he forget why he was here in the first place? He was here to win his freedom and to help Grafia. But what Elsha said made him shocked. Is there a way to bring you back? He asked her. Nodding, Elsha gave him all that he needed to know. There is, but you need to win this here and now, so Issei, do it, become the strongest red dragon emperor ever, Elsha shouted within his mind, while Drake boosted Issei's emotions and Elsha's voice for Issei to finally break the barrier. Riser suddenly started to feel pain as his arm that was choking Issei started to hurt badly. Releasing him, he saw something that made him pale in fear. Red light again exploded for Issei as he was engulfed in it. As the light died down after a few moments, Issei was in his armor. Welsh Dragon Balance Breaker Drake suddenly roared, his voice battle hungry and out for blood. I thought you said I can't use Balance Breaker again, Drake. Issei asked as he felt his armor back on him. That was a lie to force you to unlock it by your emotions. I will explain later, now though we have a chicken that needs to be roasted. I want it with extra sauce. Elsha said, making both males chuckle before Elsha did what she promised. Issei, I will lend you my strength, use it well. With that said, Issei felt his power rising even more to the point that he would easily fight any high-class devil. But what made it strange is that he felt from his left hand it was like a holy energy. Decided to question it later, he charged at Riser quicker than he could dodge, impending his armored fist into his stomach, making the phoenix spit blood. Where did you get this power? Riser questioned as he felt the holy power in his armored fist. That friend of mine gave it to me, now say your goodbye. Issei told him before sending a punch at his face. Wait, this Riser couldn't finish his sentence because at that moment Issei's fist connected with his face, sending him flying towards the undamaged king's pieces that were destroyed as Riser slammed into it. Issei walked toward the fallen Riser wanting to finish him off once and for all, but before he could get to him a small figure teleported in front of him and stood there blocking him from finishing this. "You little girl, move aside, I have no business with you," he said to her in entreating voice, but the girl's courage, she didn't budge. I won't let you hurt my brother," she quietly told him as he felt him put his hand on her head and pat her slowly, making her blush a little from the gesture. "Riser is really lucky to have you as his sister. Don't worry, this battle is done anyway." With that, Issei turned around, missing a huge blush that came over the girl's face. "This battle is over, winner is Issei Haidu," Grafia announced as he felt him being transported back to the hall where he deactivated his armor. "A deal is a deal, Rias Gremory is free," Surziches told everyone as Rias and all of the orc hugged Issei tightly with tears in their eyes. "Thank you, Issei," Rias softly to him. "You're welcome, so let's go home," Issei told them as he and the group went outside, where Issei turned the pamphlet around and from it, a beautiful griffin appeared with silver wings and a mighty roar. "Well, that's one way of traveling," Issei spoke, making everyone laugh. "Come on, Rias, let's go home, guys, talk to you in the morning," he said as she lifted Rias into her seat and getting into his. With one mighty swing of its powerful wing, Griffin took to the skies, leaving the orc members alone on the ground below. As they were on their way back, Rias tried everything to get Issei attention, but to her luck, she saw him staring into the distance clearly and thought. Frowning, she lightly shook him, making him turn to her. "You need something, Rias?" he asked. Nodding, Rias spoke. "What would you want for a reward for saving me?" That made Issei think for a few moments before he turns around and told her something that she didn't expect. "I want to train more, so I can help someone in need." "You don't want my virginity or my first kiss?" Rias asked, hoping to draw his perverted side out. "Nah, I would like to train more," he told her, and after that, the ride to Kuo was in silence. As they finally got into Kuo, Rias decided to from now on sleep with Issei, so she announced it to him. From now on I would move in with you. That way we could expand our bond even more." But to her shock, he just outright refused her. "Hell no, I did save you, but that doesn't mean that I will let you do whatever you want with me. I'm off to sleep, sleep well, princess," Issei told her before she could say anything to stop him. She had forgotten that he was still mad at her for what she did and that he would soon find his way out. But what Issei didn't know is that Rias was falling in love with him, and that would create a whole new set of problems for him. Chapter 11. New transfer. As Rias and Issei were flying back to Kuo on the griffin that Grafia provided, said woman was watching them from the balcony with a small smile on her face. "You look happy, Grafia, what's the occasion?" Surziches asked as he neared his wife. "I'm happy that Issei Haidu won the match and that it's time for both of us to do what we agreed," Grafia answered him, still looking into the direction that the king and pawn flew away. "Oh, what is that, dear my beauty?" Surziches asked, wanting to know more about this deal that his wife and the young Securite that just fought had made. "I will tell you when we get back, though there is also something that you should know about him," Grafia replied, and seeing that Surziches is about to open his mouth. "Later," was the sentence that put this conversation to a halt until later on in the night. Nodding, Surziches just turned his head also in the direction where the duo went and smiled a little, knowing that with this young brown hair boy is a very interesting future. On the other balcony, another conversation was taking place with both heads of the houses that just lost this marriage speaking to each other. "I'm terribly sorry, Lord Phoenix, about this," a red-haired man in white tuxedo said. No, my friend, there is nothing to be sorry for. It was our greed that put this event into motion, and personally I'm grateful that Riser finally lost." The ash-blonde hair man in an orange tuxedo with golden accessories told his fellow devil. Blinking in confusion, Lord Phoenix chuckled a little bit before decided to elaborate what he meant. "What I mean to say, Zeoticus, is that I'm grateful and wish to thank the Securite for finally showing Riser that, even though he comes from the House of Phoenix, that he can't always rely on his regeneration to help him through a fight. And I think that the Securite finally showed him that there is always some opponents that would find a way around an obstacle. This time was regeneration. And at any rate, we both have pure devil grandchildren. So this one isn't that much of a problem." Finally understanding what Lord Phoenix said, Zeoticus gave his 2 cents. "Well, that is true, Demigras. Now a new question is set in motion. What would happen when the 2 dragon emperors meet?" Demigras nodded at that, also wondering what would happen next. Now that Welsh dragon made his appearance, both devils were sure that the battle between the red and white emperors that raged on for almost millennium will soon continue. As the wedding party ended, both Surziches and Grafia returned home to discuss what Grafia said. Making themselves comfortable in their room, Surziches put up a barrier to prevent people from hearing what was discussed. "Now Grafia, will you tell me?" He asked in pleading tone that made his wife giggle a bit before she turned deadly serious, that made Surziches flinch a little bit. He may be the strongest devil alive, but compared to his wife's fury he is weak and hopeless. What I'm about to tell you doesn't go out of this room until Issei or I tell others, is that understood Surziches? She questioned in a way too sweet tone that made it crystal clear that if he tells anyone that he would pray for death over the torture that he would experience. Nodding furiously he saw that his wife smiled a little at his understanding. Issei Haidu, the pawn of your sister would not have come to save her if it wasn't for me and the deal we made to make sure that he would do what you asked. Grafia told Surziches as he was in shock that Ria's own pieces wouldn't want to help his master. Though that shock lasted for a moment before he becomes angry and started to release his huge magic reserves. Grafia seeing this narrow her eyes at her husband before she also released her magic making his stop dead in his track. He could feel that she was starting to get pissed and that made him pale. Calming down he asked the oblivious question. And why wouldn't Ria's own piece help her get out of the marriage that made her so angry? That's because the way Ria's used to get him into her peerage in the first place. Was the reply that he got. And what was the way she used? Surziches asked again thinking that his sister did what she also told him. That she asked him and that he accepted without questions asked. Though the response he got shocked him again, this time to the core. She let him die by the hands of fallen angel that is now also in her peerage in her own territory. I find it hardly a coincidence. We both know that Azazel always tells us we're his fallen are just in case to prevent something happening and starting the war. Grafia said in bone-chilling tone with the emphasis on the word die. What? Was the only question he could ask in a disbelieving tone. Nodding Grafia told him exactly what Issei told her 3 nights before the wedding when she was keeping an eye on him to make sure that he recovers. To say that Surziches was in shock was an understatement. He was sure that Rias would never be able to that to anyone, let alone a weak human that was willing to listen to her and willingly become her servant. If only she asked him or told him to stay clear from the fallen. He just can't believe she would let him get killed. Collecting himself Surziches asked about the deal that was made between the two of them. It's very simple my dear. I would help Issei get to high class as soon as he can and in exchange, he would help Lucy return to her old self that was destroyed on that fateful day. I think that is reasonable, don't you? Grafia told him precisely what they would do for each other's help. Surziches just stood there watching his wife with wide eyes, he thought that she would make another deal, but this was crazy. He knew that Lucy was still hostile to anyone that wasn't Grafia and that the boy, even in his balance breaker, would have a hard time against Lucy if she attacked him. That's crazy Grafia. You know as much as myself that he would get killed if goes near her, are you sending that boy to his death? Surziches asked only to regret that a moment later as Grafia's eyes started shining in silver color that he last saw during the war. Surziches Gremory, don't tempt me, or I will easily kick your sorry ass. I know what I'm doing. No one besides Euclid and me knew her better. So just do what I ask and keep quiet about this, I will go to collect Issei in a few days. Also, I think you owe him for saving your sister. He could have easily rejected your idea. Grafia coldly told him with her silver eyes still glowing with power that made Surziches nod in fear. Now with that done, let's go to sleep. We will have a lot of work to do in the next couple of days. Grafia said, though this time it was her normal sweet tone that made the great Mau take a breather as he just dodged a nuclear explosion that would have happened if he didn't comply to what Grafia told him. That is acceptable, though bring him tomorrow during lunch break here. I want to properly meet with the Securite and hear it from his own mouth of what happened. Surziches said to his ice queen as she just nodded as they both got into bed. As they snuggled close, they told the other goodnight and went to sleep. Akakuo, the sun was slowly rising as Issei slowly started opening his eyes. When he got home from his duel with Riser, he barely had any energy to wash up before falling into his bed completely exhausted from the fight and overusing his balance breaker. Waking up, Issei felt something to his right, it was giving a hot signature, making him wonder what it could be. Moving his head to the right, he saw what made his right side feel hot and the sight made him angry. In his weary bed on his right side peacefully slept the naked form of Rias Gremory, the girl that he now started to hate even more. He remembered last night very well and he remembered clearly telling her to buck off and that he didn't want her near him. But it looked like she didn't care for what he said or thought and that made him even more pissed. Picking her roughly out of the bed Issei stood up and called his sacred gear. He heard a painful laugh before seeing Rias looking at what happened only to look up seeing Issei's pissed off green eyes looking at her full of hatred. Ouch Ice, why did you kick me out of the bed? Rias asked rubbing the place where Issei kicked her. I thought I told you to piss off and that I don't want to sleep with you in bed. Issei harshly told her using his draconic side that he learned from Drake to frighten his enemies. From the looks of Ria's eyes, it was working. But I'm your king and she started to say only to be again harshly told by Issei what he thought about her as his king. And I don't give a flying buck about that. Yes, you are my king and I'm your pawn. but to me that means nothing. I would have much preferred that you didn't save me, that way I wouldn't have to deal with you and your shit all the time, you spoiled princess. That made Rias mad. She felt that her pride got hit hard and that her authority over him was little to none. Starting to flare her power at him to intimidate him, she was met with something far worse as her plan backfired as he also started to flare his, which unsurprisingly was higher than hers. Rias Gremory, get out of my house before I do more damage to you than what I did to Riser. Issei threatened as he flared his power even more just to make his point. He knew that it was overkill, but he honestly didn't care. Seeing that he just might do what he said, Rias reluctantly collected her stuff and teleported out of the room. Not a moment later Issei heard his mother shout to him. Issei, did you again fall out of the bed? Wake up already, it's time for school. Issei's attitude went back to normal as he smiled at his mother from his room. Yes mom, I'm coming down in a bit. He shouted back, picking his clothes as he started getting ready for school. Going through his normal routine, Issei made his way toward school. Only to get a visit from someone he didn't saw in a few days that he was away. It was none other than the auburn-haired girl that loved to tease the shit out of him and Murayama, Chelsea. Though when he looked at her outfit he only raised his eyebrow at her, which she completely ignored. Oh, good morning darling. How are you on this fine day? Chelsea asked in a loving tone, loving while taking his arm and hugging it. While her lips were only centimeters away from his ear, making him shiver and blush from her action. Gaining some control over himself, Issei also used the same tone as she did, making it her turn to blush as he tilted his head a little bit, whispering into her ear, oh my, I'm doing very good this morning seeing you here darling. Though your outfit makes me question why you are wearing the Kuo Academy uniform. Making her shiver from his hot breath and his dragon aura that he purposely released, making her want to claim him here and now. His question however went unanswered as he looked down at her uniform. As indeed Chelsea wore the girl's uniform of the academy that Issei went. Though while still looking normal she added a red tie and instead of the normal girl's long white sleeved shirt, she wore her short one and without the shoulder cape that made her in Issei's eyes looked even more cute and hotter. Though before he could think of anything perverted, Issei and Chelsea heard two more voices that made both of them turn and see Murayama and Cadis running up to them. Murayama, seeing the way Chelsea was holding Issei, made her face go red with anger at seeing her crush being held by Chelsea like that. Calming herself, Murayama along with Cadis greeted both of them before asking the same question that Issei asked. But to their disappointment and Chelsea's giggling, they didn't get an answer. Though they would get it soon enough and they will be shocked. Back in the Orc, Rias was still pissed at Issei, the guy that took her heart and made her fall for her. She completely refused to accept that Issei hated her, and that only made things worse. She thought about calling her brother to set Issei straight, but that would be an even bigger blow to her already beat down pride that she held in high regards. So she decided to call a meeting to get this thing done, but at that moment, she felt another person with a sacred gear. Moving quickly towards the window, she saw a sight that made her anger rise and her desire to take her Issei back even more. From her window, Rias saw Chelsea, Murayama, Cadis, and Issei talking and laughing, all the while seeing Chelsea hugging Issei's arm tightly with hers. Rias wanted nothing more than to march down there and slap that auburn-haired girl across the face for holding her Issei. But before that, she would need to figure out who was that auburn girl and what was she doing here. Also to see if she had a sacred gear, because if she did, Rias wanted her in her peerage, so she turned to her bishop that was in the same class as her pawn and ordered her to scout out the girl and report what she saw. It was like any usual day when Issei entered his classroom, though something felt as if it was the calm before the storm. Knowing his damned luck, hell was going to break loose soon. As the now known as perverted duo, since Issei stopped with his peeking and vulgar stuff, tried to bring the old Issei back with their shouting about porn and showing him their magazines, which he refused more times than he could count in less than 2 minutes. Thankfully for the duo, the teacher entered the room before Issei could punch them and knock them out, saving the duo that was getting on his last nerves. Alright, class. Today we have a new student that just transferred here all the way from Europe. The teacher told them before turning towards the door and telling that person to enter. You can come in and introduce yourself. As the person walked through the door, it was no other than Chelsea that was now standing in front of Issei's, Murayama's and Cadis's class. Though while all of the students sat there stunned at her beauty, the mentioned trio widened their eyes, Issei just put a hand on his forehead shaking his head, while Murayama looked like she was going to kill someone here and now. Though Cadis for her part was just in shock that Chelsea was in their class and that the girl that murdered Issei was also there in front of her. Hello everyone. My name is Chelsea Dalton, I come from England. It's a pleasure to meet you all. Chelsea introduced herself with a polite bow that made many males have hearts in their eyes and girls to be in awe at her politeness and manner. Alright, does anyone have a question for Miss Dalton? The teacher asked and had a little sweat drop at a speed that hands were put up. Teacher, please, Chelsea would be alright. I was never one for formalities. Chelsea told him in a polite manner. Nodding, the teacher returned his attention to the class. Okay, Motohama asked. But if it is a perverted question you will get dentation for a month. Motohama nodded, asking something that actually made sense. Why did you come all the way here from Europe? Giggling a bit, Chelsea pointed towards Issei, which made him pale as he quickly ducked under the table, but the damage was already done. All students except Murayama and Cadis, who knew the truth, turned towards him, including Rainer, only to see him hiding under the table, which made the kendo duo and Chelsea want to laugh. As he got out from the table after a moment, he saw all the death glares from the guys for what Chelsea claimed. Issei took another on Motohama and Mitsuda roared at him before sending their fist at him, only for them and class to be in shock when Issei easily caught their punches and flipped them over him, making the duo land with a hard thud that made a lot of people cringe from the impact. Ooh was all they heard as the duo rubbed their butts and had tears in their eyes. This is not fair, how come you? Issei has a lot of hot girls, first the orc now Chelsea, this isn't fair. They complained, and while everyone was looking at him, no one except Rainer, Murayama, Cadis, and Chelsea noticed that Issei's eyes flashed green before returning to their brown at the mention of orc. They decided to question this later as the teacher started again to gain their attention. After a minute or so it worked as he led a few more questions before telling Chelsea to sit next to Rainer. As the auburn girl sat near the fallen, she purposely stopped suppressing her aura and let the fallen feel that she had sacred gear, and to her expectation the raven-haired girl widened her eyes only for a moment before returning them to their normal uninterested, but that didn't go without a notice from Chelsea as she ghostly smirked at her. It looks like I was right, Rias did order her to see if I had a gear. Oh, this is going to be fun, I can barely wait. Chelsea thought at the inevitable meeting she was sure was going to happen between her and Rias. She couldn't wait to tease her and make her regret losing such a nice person that she had great respect and had a small affection for him. As the class went on, Chelsea would from time to time feel Rainer looking her way and sizing her up, but she ignored it and went on like she didn't notice. Though when the bell signalized the end of the classes and beginning of lunch, Rainer quickly disappeared, no doubt to inform Rias about her, which she didn't mind at all, and was sure that she would be called to talk to the princess after school. But for now, she had a more pressing matter. Turning to her slowly rising love interest, she couldn't be helped but laugh at the scene in front of her. As the bell rang, the perverted duo and some other males quickly closed down on Issei before he could do anything. As the duo grabbed him by the collar, Issei started to feel a little angry at them and their behavior, as he couldn't believe that he was friends with them. That earned two laughs coming from his mind, one was of his resident dragon, while the other was of the most beautiful girl he saw until now, Elsha. What do you guys want? The Sekiruyute asked, wanting to go eat his lunch since he was hungry. How is it possible that you have this much girls around you? Motohama and Mitsuda asked in unison as they both started to shake Issei, making him a little sick. Stop shaking me and I will tell you. Issei told them, making them immediately stop their action. Tell us, they shouted, making him sweat drop, causing Murayama and Chelsea to giggle, while Cadis laughed outright. You really wanna know? Issei asked, feeling a little mischief which only Murayama and Chelsea noticed. The boys nodded, and that was all Issei needed before leaning a little forward, he started to talk into the low tone. That's because unlike you guys I learned how to understand their feelings and respect them. I would also protect them when needed, but from the looks of you guys you will never understand that, and you will die like a virgins, before finishing in a shout that made all the boys get angry at him, while the girls that were left in the room to fall down laughing extremely hard. Ias. The boys yelled, charging at him, but they were stopped when Chelsea stood in between them. Now guys, well, I do like to watch a good fight. I prefer to see my darling here in one piece if you don't mind. Chelsea told them sweetly, but there was a threatening undertone that promised pain if they did anything to him. Nodding in fear, the boys returned to their seats as Chelsea took Issei's hand and rushed out of the room, but not before motioning to the girls to follow them. The girls nodded but waited for about a minute or so before making their way outside and towards Issei and Chelsea, who told them where to find them through a text. As they finally stopped running, Issei turned towards Chelsea, who was currently holding his arm tightly in between her breast, making him blush at the soft sensation that made its way to him. They are about the same size as Cadis's. Issei thought, with a little nosebleed that made her also blush as she noticed where she put his hand, but she didn't mind it since she was enjoying the moment of peace with him, and that made her want it more. Though after a minute or so of peace, Murayama and Cadis came running up to them, both were looking at the scene with different thoughts. While Cadis was starting to open up her mind more to Issei, Murayama was in love with the boy and was looking at where Chelsea put Issei's hand made her jealous and angry. They had an agreement that they will help him combat his perverted nature, but what Chelsea was doing made that look like they were talking to themselves instead of helping him. Now guys, well, I do like to watch a good fight. I prefer to see my darling here in one piece if you don't mind. Chelsea told them sweetly, but there was a threatening undertone that promised pain if they did anything to him. Nodding in fear, the boys returned to their seats as Chelsea took Issei's hand and rushed out of the room, but not before motioning to the girls to follow them. The girls nodded but waited for about a minute or so before making their way outside and towards Issei and Chelsea, who told them where to find them through a text. As they finally stopped running, Issei turned towards Chelsea, who was currently holding his arm tightly in between her breast, making him blush at the soft sensation that made its way to him. They are about the same size as Cadis's. Issei thought with a little nosebleed that made her also blush as she noticed where she put his hand, but she didn't mind it since she was enjoying the moment of peace with him, and that made her want it more. Though after a minute or so of peace, Murayama and Cadis came running up to them, both were looking at the scene with different thoughts. While Cadis was starting to open up her mind more to Issei, Murayama was in love with the boy and was looking at where Chelsea put Issei's hand made her jealous and angry. They had an agreement that they will help him combat his perverted nature, but what Chelsea was doing made that look like they were talking to themselves instead of helping him. At first we didn't, Riser beat us almost at ease. Though I went up against him later and managed to win, though not without a cost and a great deal out of it. He explained to the girls that sighed in relief, only to realize that he said about a cost and deal put together, in their opinion that was never a good sign. What was the cost and the deal? Cadis asked in a frightened tone, thinking about a worst case scenario already. The cost was Issei started to explain only to be cut off when he heard a voice that made him growl. Issei, there you are. Oh, if it isn't the new girl and the kendo duo, I thought you guys were enemies. Rias spoke as she and the kendo got closer to the group. It's none of your business, Rias. Issei said in cold voice that made girls scared while it made Akeno blush, showing that she was slowly turning on at the thought of him being in charge. Rias just stood there in shock at the tone he used until she remembered what had transpired early this morning at his house, which made her angry as it showed when her eyes turned red, scaring the duo thought it had no effect on Issei and Chelsea. Chelsea had experience fighting stronger opponents than herself in comparison to Rias. While Issei knew deep down Rias wouldn't and couldn't do anything to him since he was stronger than her by margins. Seeing that Murayama and Cadis were starting to fear for their lives, Issei decided to stop Ria's poor attempt to scare him by flaring his power and directing it to her. That did the trick as she instantly stopped, feeling the anger and power he directed at her increase every second. She still couldn't understand why he was angry at her. She saved his life when he was dying, wasn't that enough too for him to love her and have her loyalty? Shaking Doe's thoughts, for now, she decided to bring the four of them to her clubroom where they could discuss in private and in more detail. Seeing that if they refused Akeno would attack them, probably Murayama and Cadis since they are weakest and can't defend themselves, Issei looked towards the three girls seeing them nod causing Issei to just sigh. Fine, we will go to the clubroom. Issei said as Rias nodded and started moving towards her base of operations with them following. As they walked Issei quietly asked Akeno a question. Would you have attacked us if we refused her offer? Akeno was silent for a few moments before turning her head towards him since they were walking side by side behind the others while Akeno had a sad look on her pretty face. If you refused and she ordered then yes, I would, though both of us know that you would take the hit instead of anyone that I would target. She replied in a sad tone not really liking to hurt people that she considered friends and comrades. While she wasn't on the best terms with Issei also, she was grateful to the pawn of the group for fighting for Rias even though she didn't deserve it. But if Rias would have married Riser, that would have meant that Kaneko and Rainer who she was slowly accepting, and herself along with Rias, would become his hex toys and would be bucked without stop and there would be nothing that they would be able to do. And to all the girls that was worse than death. Nodding in understanding, Issei decided to ease her troubles. Don't worry Akeno. You are right, I would be the one to take your attack head on before it could hit anyone, and don't worry I'm not mad or angry at you. You are my queen after all and you are way higher than me at the position. Thank you, Issei, that means a lot. Giving her a thumbs up, he continued to walk in silence towards the clubroom. Chapter 12. Heir of the Lucifuge clan. As they entered the clubroom Kendo duo gasped at the interior of the room that looked weary, much like a room you would find in a castle and not in school. Looking around the room they found another thing that made them gasp. On one of the couches sat none other than their classmate Rainer, who glared at Issei and Chelsea. While on the other they found Kaneko who was eating sweets not interested in anything else, and Kiba who politely made a short bow with a smile. Taking her seat behind her desk, Rias gestured to her guests to make themselves comfortable before the questioning began. Please take a sit. Turning towards her queen that stood at her side Rias asked, Akeno could you please pour us some of your fine tea? At once, President. Taking their seats, both Murayama and Cadis sat near Issei, while Chelsea was looking at Kaneko's sweets with watering mouth. Shortly after settling themselves, Akeno walked out with a cart that had a tea set on in it. Serving them all the tea that they thanked her for, Rias decided to start this meeting. Now before we begin. Ice. Rias called her pawn who looked uninterested and was looking at his phone. Yes, my king. He replied in a bored tone not caring at all. Do you know, how dangerous is it for two normal girls to know about us? She questioned in a harsh tone full of authority which was followed by a sharp glare. Though Issei was unfazed by it. And do you know how cruel it is to let an innocent human boy get killed for you selfish gain, princess? He replied with his own question that made her eyes wide. But I didn't, she started to say but was cut off when a Gremory magic circular appeared and out of it, Graphia stepped out still in her maid clothes that Issei remembered. Gee Graphia. What are you doing here and now? Rias questioned in freighted tone seeing her sister-in-law. Looking around the room, Graphia spotted Issei that made her make a small smile, but she also noticed 3 more people. Though she raised an eyebrow at sensing that all 3 were human and that one had a sacred gear. She just shrugged it off before addressing Rias. Hello Lady Rias and hello members of the Orc, it's a pleasure to see you all well and healthy. Graphia replied ignoring her earlier question. Getting the same greeting from the peerage, she smiled softly before turning to the 3 girls that were situated near Issei. And you 3 are Ladies Rias' new pieces? Graphia asked. No Graphia, they are here since Rias invited them here. Though they know about the supernatural so there is no worry. I can vouch for them to keep the secret. He answered in a pleasant and friendly tone that was completely different to the one he used only moments ago. Making the said 3 girls smile at Issei's guarantee of them. Rias was now wondering why her pawn only talked to her sister-in-law in a friendly way almost without a care in the world. Moving that thought to the back she decided to find out why was she here. Graphia, what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be by my brother's side? I'm here under orders from your brother to come and collect your pawn. Your brother wants us to speak to him in private. That shocked everyone in the room. Even Issei was shocked that the Mayu would want to meet him in private. What does my brother want with my adorable pawn? Rias asked again, not believing that Surziches wanted to talk to her eyes. That is something that I can't tell, my orders were simple. Go to the Orc and collect Issei Haidu, the Red Dragon Emperor. It's a great honor to be called by my brother. You should go and see him. Rias told him feeling proud of her servant. One thought, Graphia. Issei called her which she acknowledged with a nod. Who guarantees me that Rias wouldn't take advantage of my absence and make my friends her servants? That legit question made the Kendo duo gasp in fear while the Orc members looked at him in shock. In particular, Rias who felt tears going down her cheek. Issei, I would never. Why do you hate me so much? Nodding, Graphia turned to Rias before extending her arm and flaring a bit of her power and to the surprise of everyone, the taking Rias' pieces from her. What? Graphia, I demand that you return my pieces to me at once, what is the meaning of this? Rias shouted at the silver hair maid. This is only as insurance to your pawn that his friends would not be turned into devils by accident. Your pieces will be returned shortly, Lady Rias. With that done, the maid turned to the brown-haired boy who nodded and stood up. Turning to his friends he sent them a smile seeing their insecurity rising. Don't worry about me, I will be fine. I will call you guys when I'm back. But that said, Issei entered the circle with Graphia and teleporting away. Leaving a relieved duo and smiling Chelsea behind, while the Orc was still in shock as to what happened though none as much as Rias. As both Graphia and Issei appeared in the hallway of the office building of Surzich's Lucifer, Issei couldn't help but question why he wanted to see Issei. Issei, do you know why Lord Lucifer wanted to meet you? Graphia asked him as she turned her head towards him. Issei was shocked that she asked him that question since he was about to ask himself. Honestly no, I don't, but something tells me it's about the deal we made. Issei replied, getting a nod from the silver-haired maid. You're correct. Now please follow me. With that the both of them walked in silence through the hallway where Issei saw a few statues no doubt of devil's origin and some paintings showing some of the influential devils through history. Though what caught his attention was a picture of the current Lord Lucifer and 3 other people with him and Graphia. There were 2 other males and 1 female on it. One of the males had a bald head that looked like he was in his early 30s with armor on with a cape that was purple. The next male was a lime-haired man that, similar to Surzich's, looked like he was in his late 20s and had a green robe around his shoulders. The last person was the only female besides Graphia. She looked like a teenage girl no older than Issei and was shorter of all of them in the picture. She had black hair that was split into 2 ponytails that went all the way down to her back and was wearing a green suit. Graphia, who are they? The other 3 in this picture? He asked as he pointed at the picture. Those are 3 other Mayus that govern the underworld along with the current Lord Lucifer. They are Mayu Beelzebub, Mayu Leviathan, and Mayu Asmodeus. She replied after seeing what picture he pointed out to her. I guess they are extremely powerful. Issei asked in slight fear. Immensely, they are powerful enough to destroy Japan several times with just a flick of their wrist. Graphia answered him, making Issei pale. Now Issei, we must not keep Lord Lucifer waiting, he has also many other things to do. Graphia told him again as she continued to walk towards his office. Quickly following her, Issei soon found himself in front of double doors that looked like they were made from pure gold with a lot of engravings on them and the crest of what he guessed was Lucifer's. Stopping in front of the door, Grafia turned around and fixed his collar a little bit while instructing him how to behave and talk to the current Mao of the underworld. Issei nodded in understanding of how he would need to behave. Seeing that his clothes were fixed, Grafia turned to the door and knocked a few times before she heard her husband telling them to enter. Inside of his office, Serziches was filling some documents that he started to wonder if this job was worthy and enough paid. He couldn't understand why he would need to sign even the stupidest of thing. He was sure to get payback on Leviathan for giving him this extra work for her to go and shoot a new episode of her show. Sighing to himself, he heard a knock on the door, which was no doubt Grafia waiting to enter. Releasing a quick breath, he told them to come in. As soon as the doors opened, it revealed none other than his beautiful wife and the young brown-haired boy that he met during the Riser's wedding party. The same boy that showed great power and will can overcome any obstacle. He would have loved to keep him in his sister's peerage, but he knew that the more the boy stayed there, the more the chances of him hurting Rias, and that was something he would try to avoid at all costs. Lifting himself up and walking around his massive wooden desk that held to him his worst enemy, towers of paper that needed to be read and signing, Serziches stood in front of them with a smile welcoming them. "Welcome back, Grafia and Issei Haidu. It's pleasure to meet you again," he said in a pleasant voice. Bowing respectably, Issei answered him. "It's the honor to meet you, Lord Lucifer, and on the better occasion. I hope I didn't stir the pot too much and cause too much trouble for you." No, you didn't do anything as such, and I thank you for helping me there. And please call me Serziches, I am honestly not one for formalities. Now please have a seat, we need to discuss why I called you here. Grafia, would you mind if you bring us some tea?" Serziches waved him off before gesturing for Issei to take a sit on one of the sofa with him sitting on another, while Grafia went to prepare tea for them. After a minute, Grafia returned with a tea, and on Serziches' nod cast a barrier to prevent people from entering or hearing what they would discuss. As they took a sip of Grafia's tea, Issei couldn't help but comment how good the tea was that she made before going to business. "Grafia, this is the best tea I have ever had in my life." "Now Serziches, I was told that you are busy, and by the look of those towers of paperwork, I assume that you have a lot of work, so shall we just get to the point?" Issei said, making the couple smile at him. "Yes Issei, we should. The reason I called you here is to discuss the deal you made with my wife and what happened to you before you become a devil. And how you became one." Serziches told him in soft voice, knowing that this was a sore point to the Securite. Sighing heavily, Issei nodded before asking him. "What would you want to hear first, sir? The deal or what happened?" After thinking for a moment, Serziches answered him, "How you became a devil, if you don't mind." Nodding again, Issei told him all he knew and what he had figured out with Dragon Elsha about what happened months prior of him becoming a devil all the way to his death. After Issei finished the story, both Serziches and Grafia paled at hearing the full story of how the Securite become a devil was unnerving. It explained perfectly why he refused to do anything for Rias until Grafia intervened. I don't know what to say, Issei. I didn't know that my lovely sister was capable of doing that. Understand this, Issei, that while we are indeed devils, even we are not that cruel to let a human being get killed for our own selfish desire. I hope there is something, anything at all that I can do to make amend this." Serziches told him sincerely, as he could understand that if something like that happened to Rias or Grafia, hell even him, he would do anything to free them or himself from that person. "I will take a reigning check if you don't mind, sir," he answered and smiled a little, seeing that Serziches nodded in understanding. "Now to the deal," Grafia this time said while drinking her tea. "Yes, and the deal, Issei Hai," Serziches started to say, only to get interrupted by Issei. "Please just Issei or Ice, whichever you prefer, and Grafia, the same thing applies to you, you can call me Issei or Ice," he told them, making them smile a little before Serziches continued. Yes, now that onto the deal, Ice, what do you intend to do when you get to Grafia's sister?" Serziches asked the question that made Grafia looked at him as if trying to read his mind, but stopped since she too also wanted to know how he would go about this. "Honestly, I don't know yet. I don't know in what state she is and how she will react to me. So any advice you guys could give me I will gladly take, as it would help me. You know her way better than I do." Issei responded honestly, seeing them nod before Serziches turned to Grafia and with a short nod, gestured for her to explain what he should expect. With a heavy sigh, Grafia told him exactly what to expect when he goes to Lucy and what to watch out for when dealing with her. To say that Issei gulped in fear a few times would be an understatement. Though the laughing from both Drag and Elsha didn't help his case. He was sure that he got two sadists as friends in his mind, that pleased that he would get beaten to shit by a girl. Compassing himself, Issei asked. "So, when do you guys want me to go to her?" "I will send Grafia to you tomorrow to send you to the Lucifuge castle where Lucy now resides. Though Grafia will also give you a pamphlet, so if you are in bad shape or in danger, you could retreat, and don't worry, both Grafia and I wouldn't hold it against you if you did that. Now though, I think it's time you go back to school, and don't worry, I will tell Rias that you are on a mission from me." Surziches told him as he knew that Lucy was still the powerhouse she used to be. Nodding, Issei stood up along with the couple before bowing. He, along with Grafia, started to walk towards the exit to the room but stopped when they heard Surzich's voice. Though if you manage to succeed in this, I will see what I can do about your promotion to a middle-class devil. Call it the making for returning the favor. You save my sister-in-law and I help you go up the ranks and get yourself free. That made Issei shocked, but he quickly collected himself before nodding in joy and leaving with Grafia, who escorted him out of the room before teleporting him back to school. As soon as Grafia teleported Issei back to Orc, she returned to the office room only to see Surziches holding his head in his hands, clearly still not coming to grips of what his sister had done to the boy. You sure it was a good idea to send I so soon to her? Grafia asked as she saw him lifting his head and nodding. It's better that than seeing my sister in a hospital bed with a full body cast courtesy of the Red Dragon Emperor. I have a feeling that he will break through to the real Lucy and maybe become your future brother-in-law. He said in a serious tone before giving her a sly smirk with a wink at the end. Maybe you are right, though I wouldn't mind if he truly becomes my brother-in-law. Heh, maybe those two can rebuild the Lucifuge clan back up to its former glory. She replied with a soft tone and a smile on her face. But that both of them returned to their business, with Grafia sending Rias back her evil pieces through a magic circle. When Issei returned to Orc, he was relieved to see that nothing happened to the girls. Seeing him appear, Murayama and Caddis launched at him, tackling him into the floor before he could do anything. They stayed that way for a minute or so before they heard a forced cough that made them look and see Rias flirting her power, a little bit of pure jealousy of the girls hugging her. Issei. Come on girls, let's go back to eating lunch, I'm hungry. Oh, and the meeting went perfectly, so don't worry. He said quickly as he got up with the two girls still hanging on to him before heading out with them and Chelsea, who followed them. As they exited the Orc, Issei told them what happened at the meeting and that he would be going on a mission, so they won't need to worry why he was not here. Though he made them promise him that they would stay out of trouble and stay as far away from Rias and her peerage as possible until he returns. The three heads nodding at his words, he and the girls went to eat their lunch and finished their day at school before going home. As the morning came, Issei felt nervous and scared for obvious reason. Today was the day he would try to save Lucy from herself, however he kept thinking about the deal between him and Grafia and decided that this one won't be part of the deal. If he would save her, the last thing on his mind would be some deal. Though something was telling him that meeting this girl would change his life for the better. As he went through his usual ritual, Issei soon found himself at the front gate of the school that changed his life so much. Taking a deep breath, he walked through the gates and into his classroom. As the day went by and classes finished, Issei said his goodbye to the three girls he started to like before going to Orc to wait for Grafia to come and pick him up. Entering the room, he found everyone talking with each other and Grafia calmly waiting for him, which made him have a small smile seeing her. Ah, Issei, perfect timing. Grafia just told us that you are to go do some mission for my brother. Do the best you can and make me proud, I have faith in you. So go there and show them why you are my adorable pawn. Rias told him in a voice full of confidence, clearly not knowing why he was going away. Thanks, I will try. Issei replied as he nodded to Grafia, who flared a little bit of her power to teleport him away. See you guys later. Issei said before teleporting to the Lucifuge estate. Leaving his comrades to return to do what they were doing before he showed up. Appearing in the underworld right in front of the Lucifuge estate, Issei was in awe at seeing it all. It looked perfect. It was a peaceful place with a castle that was way bigger than the Phoenix Castle and looking more luxurious, though what made him be at awe was the nature around the castle. It was giving the peaceful vibe that made him feel like at home, meadows full of all kinds of flowers, forests of conifers that went from the end of meadows all the way to the mountains in the back that dominated the surrounding area with their heights, a few streams that could be heard in the background, and the air was all making him want to move here and not move anywhere else. Grafia, seeing Issei's reaction to her former home, made her smile. This was my formal home before moving into the Gremory household. All that's left here is Lucy and the nature around this place. Turning his face toward the maid that stood to his right, he nodded. I see, well Grafia, lead the way, I think it's time for me to meet Lucy Lucifuge. He added with a smile that made Grafia smile also. This way Ice. She replied as she walks him through the castle to the living room where Lucy usually spent her days. As they made their way through, Issei couldn't help look around, seeing all the statues, paintings, creatures and many more things that made this place take his breath away by its beauty alone. Though if he thought that this place took his breath away, he was about to be knocked on his butt by one and only Lucy Lucifuge and her sheer beauty that radiated not only her looks but also her power. Sister, I didn't expect you to come here so soon. Issei heard a voice full of warmth called out. Sister, I didn't come here alone. I would like you to meet someone. Grafia replied as the owner of the voice showed herself to the duo. What Issei saw was a girl about his height that looked like she was in her late teens and had the looks that easily beat Elsha and Grafia in the looks department. Seeing her beauty made him blush madly. The girl had long silver hair with a light purple tone to it that went all the way to her back, dark blue colored eyes that Issei was sure that looked a little dead now, as if all hope and will for living was sucked out of them. The girl was wearing a baby blue dress with a silver color mixed in with it, the dress went down to her knees and had a V-shaped neck opening that showed her perfectly developed chest with a green emerald jewel necklace that was around her neck. She also wore small silver high heels. That somehow made her beauty even more perfect. Lucy was also surprised that her sister had brought this boy to her. She could tell that the boy was powerful and that he wasn't here to fight. Centuries of dealing with people made her able to read body language easily, and his aura was calm and not threatening or challenging. Issei Haidu, this is my little sister Lucy Lucifuge, the heir of the Lucifuge clan. Lucy, this is Issei Haidu, the Red Dragon Emperor. Grafia introduced them to each other before she turned to Issei. Lucy's eyes widened at hearing that the boy in front of her was none other than Sekiryuite, before returning to normal dull. Though when she looked at him closely she could not deny that the Sekiryuite looked cute in her eyes, even though he was simply wearing his academy's uniform. Blushing madly, Issei bowed and in a shaky voice introduced himself. Hello, my name is Issei Haidu, a pleasure to meet you, Lucy Lucifuge. Nodding to herself a little, Lucy introduced herself as well. Hello, my name is Lucy Lucifuge, it's nice to meet you. Issei, I will leave you now, take as much time as you need to get to know her and help her get out of her shell. Grafia told him before turning to Lucy, who was looking at Issei and checking him out again, which made her make a sly grin at her. Lucy? She said as the girl turned to her and saw her sly grin before blushing a little, knowing her sister and her mind that hadn't changed from their youth. Yes, dear sister? She asked as she composed herself. Like I told Ice, I want you to get to know him better. Maybe he will be the one that can finally bring the old lovable Lucy back from her shell. Grafia said with a slight shrug and sly smile that didn't go unnoticed by Lucy. I understand. Though I make no promises, sister. Lucy answered her. Don't worry, Grafia, I will help her with anything. I will do anything to return your sister back to normal. Issei told Grafia, making Lucy widen her eyes as a small flash of life was seen in her dead blue eyes. Thank you, Issei. If you need anything, just call me and I will come to help. With that said, Grafia teleported away, leaving the two alone. After a few moments of silence, Lucy decided to speak. How do you plan on doing what you promised? She said in a low voice that was devoid of any emotions. Issei turned to her with a large grin, making her cheeks tint pink, as Issei responded with the complete opposite tone of voice. You just have to wait and see, Lucy. Chapter 13. Fixing a damaged heart. As soon as he said those words, Lucy turned around and walked back towards the living room, with Issei following here. As he entered the room, he could tell that this was something that you could only imagine in your wildest dreams. Everywhere he looked, he found that it was full of all sorts of furniture, a large LCD TV with a fireplace under it. There were also a lot of pictures and statues that made him wonder if all of the high-class devils' homes were filled with these type of things. There were also many games to his surprise, like a pool table, pinball machine, and a lot of other game platforms that he saw in the human world but couldn't afford it. Lucy sneaked a quick look at Issei's figure when he started looking around, once more unknowingly blushing softly at how hot he looked in his casual clothing. Well, he didn't look like anything special, however he looked perfect to her. She couldn't explain it, but something was attracting her to him. It was like a magnet pulled her towards him, and it grew stronger with every look she threw at him. As Lucy made her way toward one of the tables in the room, Issei saw that she was looking at a photo. Getting closer to her, he saw that there were 3 kids in it. 2 of the kids had slick silver hair, while one was a boy, the other one was a girl that looked like a younger Grafia, while the last one was a girl that also had a silver hair, but with a purple tone to it that made it obvious to him that that was Lucy in her younger days. She looked even cuter as a little girl. Issei, though, as he looked at the younger Lucy in the picture. Sekiryuite, leave now before I hurt you. I know why you are here and I don't care about it. I want to be alone. Lucy suddenly told Issei in cold voice that made him flinch a little, but he gritted his teeth as he saw that Lucy had a few tears running down her face as she turned around to face him. And why would you do that? I'm not here to fight you. If I wanted to fight, I would have entered Balance Breaker the moment that Grafia left. Issei told her softly, trying to calm her down, but to his disappointment, that had a very different result. I will not let my sister do as she pleases. She is more than welcome here, but I don't like being used as some tool to help anyone. I can guess what she said to you and I don't like it. So get out of here, Lucy started in a slow and cold voice before she yelled, releasing a large amount of aura, and her hand started to electrocute with power, making Issei take a few steps away. Lucy's eyes started glowing in dark blue color, as if all the fury she held inside of her was about to unleash at the young Sekiryuite in front of her. Lucy? He softly said as his eyes were filled with sadness. He saw the fury in her eyes, but he also saw that underneath all of that rage was deep sadness that showed him she was that much hurt. Issei growled slight, seeing the sadness and loneliness, and stood his ground. I know how you feel. Issei said, watching Lucy clench her fists. What do you know about being used? You never had to fight someone that is your flesh and blood or watch them getting killed in front of your own eyes. You don't know how it was for me when people first started to try and use me to get close to my sister and her husband. To be manipulated, to be ignored later on when they finish with you. To feel lonely all the time. So I'm telling you now, get out security or I will kill you. Lucy yelled again as she shot a powerful lighting at Issei, who barely dodged it in time. Lucy, I know how it is being used a tool and watch someone close to me die right in front of me. And you are right, I won't lie to you. At first, it was because she told me to help you, but seeing you now that has changed. I will help you all on my own, Issei shouted at her in a determined voice as he summoned his gear and started boosting his power. Sorry Graphia, Surziches, but if this is the only way to bring her back then so be it. Issei thought as he yelled. Do it Drake. Welsh Dragon Balance Breaker Drake roared as Issei's armor appeared in a bright flash or red light as Issei entered into a battle stance with his dragon aura swirling all around him. Lucy, if this is what will take it to break through you then so be it. Now come on. I never gave up on anything and I'm sure as hell won't start now. Issei said as both Lucy and he charged at each other at full speed. Meanwhile, at the nearby cliff, Graphia stood with Surziches looking at the castle that towered the surrounding area. As they watched the Lucifuge estate, Surziches turned to his wife. He saw her looking at the estate with interest as if waiting for something to happen. Graphia, what are we waiting for? He asked her, wanting to know why they didn't go home yet. Turning her head a little, she smiled. You will see in a moment. If what I think is going to happen then we may soon have a new house head. Surziches was staring at her with a dumb look, he still couldn't understand what his wife meant with that. That was until he felt two strong auras shooting through the roof. Quickly turning around toward the castle he saw and heard massive explosions going on as the attacks were coming from every which way. Graphia seeing this just giggled as she knew what was happening, which forced Surziches to tear his gaze from the castle towards her. What is happening down there Graphia? Surziches asked, a little scared for the young red dragon emperor as he could tell that both Lucy and he started to clash. After giggling for a bit more, Graphia told him. That my dear is what Lucy needed, whoever approached her was weaker than her and only tried to use her. After what needed to be done was done they would leave her never to return. If Issei can somehow manage to be on par with her or overcome her then that would show her for the first time in her life that he is there to help her not use her. You know that people don't think clearly when in rage. Well, that is Lucy in a nutshell, she is filled with rage and if Issei could weather the storm that is Lucy, she would slowly open up to him. Seeing the logic, Surziches just nodded his head, turning his attention to the battle that was going on in the castle with the hope that Issei would be able to do impossible again. Good luck Issei, hi to Lucifuge. Lucy may be rough on the edges, but she is soft inside. Treat her well Issei, I know you can. With that thought, Graphia tapped Surziches on the shoulder and motioned him that it was time to go. With a nod, Surziches made a magic circle and left with Graphia, leaving a young emperor to fight a battle that will change his life forever. As the battle of will and power continued, Issei felt that he was slowly breaking through the barrier that Lucy put around her heart. He knew that sometimes the best way to know the person is to fight them, and if that was what it took to help Lucy he would do. As he was in thought he fell into her trap. As Lucy charged for another attack, Issei prepared to block it or dodge it, but he didn't expect for Lucy to miss on purpose, to create a smokescreen that she used to get around him and send a powerful kick that sent Issei flying into the wall on the opposite side. Lifting up he couldn't felt but have a little smile as he was starting to enjoy this battle. Lucy was a very skillful opponent and a powerful one at that. She knew how to use and exploit his weakness and he found that thrilling to see how much she could back him up against the wall. Is this the best you can do, Sekiruite? If it is then you better get out of here before it's too late. Lucy said as she looked at the young boy that was clad in red armor. She would admit that while she had an advantage in both experience and power, the boy in front of her was a quick learner and was with the help from the gear, quickly neutralizing her advantage in power. Though as she continued to pummel him down, his will was something she was fascinated by. Normal beings would run away 10 times by now, but this boy in front of her was not giving up, he would stand up and without a fear charge directly at her. Thought not to say that he also managed to land a few powerful hits on her. No, why would I do that, Lucy? I never had a fight this good and my spirit and will are something that is not going to let me back down now when this is getting good. I'll admit you are the strongest opponent that I fought, way stronger than that fried chicken. But that doesn't mean that I will kick the bucket now. So let's continue. He answered her honestly, making her eyes widen as she heard him. Very well, don't say I didn't warn you, Sakuraiu. Lucy started only for her to be interrupted by Issei. No, none of those stupid titles, I'm fighting you as Issei Haidu, not the Red Dragon Emperor. So just call me Issei or Ice, Lucy. He told her as his helmet disappeared and he smiled softly at her, which made her blush a little bit. This guy is interesting, that's for sure, but if he can't at least equal with me in power he is not worthy. Though what he said is true, I'm enjoying fighting him. It's been a long time since I had to go almost full power. Lucy thought as a small smile started to show on her face that made Issei's widen even more, seeing that she was also enjoying this. Now Lucy, I think it's time for me to go full power, don't you think? It would be bad of me to lag behind when you are also going almost full. Issei told her with a smile that made her look at him in shock. What? You are not at full power, and how do you know how much I'm using? You never saw me until today? She asked in pure shock. Simple, I can tell from the way your hits and aura are getting stronger by the second. Now shall we, my lady? Issei answered with a smirk and a little hand signal to show her to come at him. Why you, Lucy growled as she flared her full power and charged at Issei at her fastest speed that he was barely able to keep up. Now this is more like it. He mumbled to himself as he also powered to the as Drake's voice was heard yelling boost repeatedly. As Lucy closed in on him, she sent a powerful right hook at his face, but to her horror, Issei blurred out of sight the moment her fist was to connect with his face. As she looked around her, she continued to hear Drake roaring boost, but she couldn't see him or sense him. It was like he disappeared completely. Putting her guard up, she decided to flush him out by a barrage of magic attacks everywhere that would hopefully show his position for her to attack him. But just as she was about to attack, she heard Drake roar. Explosion. She felt something with a hell of a lot of power was just released. The power alone started to make her start to shake for the first time in almost 50 years. Lucy felt an almost foreign feeling that she thought that she had forgotten about, but she felt it before. It was fear of this massive power that was coming from somewhere and was about to hit her full force. Feeling something coming from behind her, she quickly turned around and put her arms up to block the attack, but she was met with nothing, and as she realized a moment later, it was a feint attack from Issei to make her think that he was coming from behind when in truth he was coming for the side. Hitting her on the side with a powerful kick, she was sent flying to the same wall that he crashed into not moments ago. Lifting herself up slowly, she was met with a sight that made her pale a little bit. Issei was standing in front of her with a small orb of red energy that she could tell was very powerful. Seeing that she was pinned by Issei with her back to the wall, giving her no room to maneuver to evade the attack, she decreased her power, knowing that she had finally lost to someone that was her equal in power. Someone that would not use her and would treat her like a person and not a tool. Well, looks like you beat me, Issei. I can tell that attack of yours is powerful and will leave me in no position to continue. Congratulations. She said in a defeated tone while panting exhaustedly with her head low as she sat down with her back against the wall that she landed against. That made Issei cringe a little bit as he released his armor while panting a little bit. Hey Lucy. He called her, making her look up to see him heaving a smile on his face as he got closer to her, making her blush. Why yes. She answered, her voice stuttering a little bit. That was fun, we could do it later again if you are up, but now I think it's time we clean up and have a little talk to get to know each other. Don't you think? I have all the time in this world for you. Issei told her as he put a hand on her shoulder, making her blush a little bit more this time at his touch. Not trusting her voice, Lucy just nodded and she started to show him where the bathroom was and where he would be staying. After cleaning up and refreshing a bit, both Lucy and Issei met in the living room that was a battleground not 15 minutes ago. Lucy gestured for him to take a seat while she goes and brings something for them to eat and drink, while Issei started reflecting on Lucy's behavior while she was off. Greg, Alsha, do you know why Lucy was like that? He asked his resident dragon and blonde beauty. That during the battle stayed quiet and didn't interfere much to his gratefulness. He wanted to show both of his residents and himself that he could stand against someone who was stronger and more experienced without their help. There is a lot that could have made her do what she did. I think it's best to ask the source directly, Ice. But now that you weathered the storm, things will be easier, trust me on that one. Alsha answered honestly, knowing that it could be million and one things that made her be like that. Honestly partner, it's like Alsha said. It could be many things, so it's better to ask her directly. Drake said as he was just as lost as Issei was. Well, it's like both of you said, it's best to hear it from the source. Issei said just as Lucy returned bringing a tray of food and some juice. She gently placed the tray on the table that was between them with a small smile on her face as she sat down across from him. Eat up. I know that you are hungry, that left you exhausted just like me. Lucy told him in a soft voice as a little pink was seen on her beautiful face. Thank you, Lucy, I'm famished from it, though it was fun like I said. You are pretty strong and clever. Issei thanked her in a tender voice with his face also adoring a little pink on his cheeks. As they started to eat, they slowly made small conversation about what he knew about the devil and supernatural. Before Lucy's face turned from a ghostly smile to serious. Issei, tell me, why did you come here to me honestly? I know it has to be something big. Lucy told him in a voice that left no room for argument. Nodding, Issei answered her honestly. Like I told you before the fight. I know how it is to be devastated and to be used as a tool. I was once a normal human boy that was only, and I might regret saying this, interested in porn and perverted stuff. That made Lucy started laughing for the first time in a century as she found it funny to be only interested in porn and perverted stuff. She was laughing so hard that she literally fell from her chair, rolled on the floor laughing. It took a few minutes for her to get her breath back before sitting up, but she was almost sent into another laughing rage as she saw Issei's face that was red from embarrassment and had a pout which she found extremely cute. Sorry, I didn't laugh that way in almost decade. Sorry, Ice. She said, still collecting her breath as she was now red from the laughing with a beautiful smile that made Issei's blush even worse. It's fine, as long as you have that smile you can laugh at me all you want. He told her sincerely as it was her turn to become red from his words. As I was saying, I was only interested in porn and perverted stuff before I was asked out on a date that would change my life. As that date was ending, the girl that asked me out turned out to be a fallen angel that was on a mission to murder me. After she did just that, Rias Grimoire swooped up and revived me, turning me into her pawn. Though later when we raided the church, I found out from the fallen angel that killed me no less that Rias knew her plans of it and she let me die so that she can use me to get free from a marriage agreement with Riser Phoenix. Thought after me raiding the engagement party I was able to beat him and free Rias. But at first, I was against it as we lost a game against him. Oh, when Grafia told me about you, I knew that there was something about you that felt similar to me. We lost something important to us, you with your brother, while I lost my freedom and humanity. So I made a deal with Grafia. I will help you break free from your depression and your sadness. In exchange, she will help me go up the ranks and I would finally be free from Rias. Issei said, getting Lucy to look down, thinking he was just like everyone else. Oh, when I saw you and how you behaved when Grafia left, I could tell that what you did in her presence was a very good mask and that you were also hurting even more inside. That's what gave me resolve to help you no matter the cost. Can't have that beautiful face not having a real smile on. Issei told her honestly with a sad face as he lowered his head looking at the floor as he knew that there was nothing wrong in telling her, though he was surprised at what she did. Lucy, hearing his story, had a sad look on her face that was replaced with a look of pure rage as she heard what Rias did. Though how he finished it made her have a bright red blush that he thankfully didn't see. She could understand what it was to lose something important. Though Issei didn't lose his family, he lost something also very important. He lost a big part of himself. He lost his freedom and his humanity that from the looks of it he really held in high regard, so to make him feel a little better, she did what she thought would cheer him up. She stood up and walked around the table towards him while Issei was looking down. He didn't see her getting closer to him and eventually hugging him from behind, making him go red as his armor and her warm breath that he felt only made him even more redder. Issei, I can somewhat understand how you feel. You cherished your humanity and what Rias did. If it happened to me I would have killed her 10 times over by now. It looks like you have an incredible will to suppress your hatred and work up the ladder. She softly told him as he slowly turned around to look at her eyes that finally showed some emotions. Lucy? Was all that Issei could say as he was mesmerized by her beauty, and being this near her was like he was contempt. Now then Issei, I think it's time you heard my story. It's only fair since you told me yours. Lucy told him as she released a hug that made Issei want to protest, but he kept that inside of him. As Lucy returned back in her seat, she took a moment collecting herself before looking directly into Issei's eyes. Issei could practically feel that what she was about to tell him was something that was a very, very sour subject and that it was still something that was hurting her a lot. Lucy, if you are not ready to tell me I can wait. Like I said, I have all the time of this world and I will be here with you until you are ready. Okay? He told her gently. It was his turn to hug her, getting her eyes to go wide at his words. Lucy slowly turned around in his hug and hugged him back while putting her head on his shoulder as she started to sob uncontrollably. As it turned out, her emotions were hitting an all-time high. She thought she had cried all the tears she had on that day when Euclid died. She was now proven wrong. As Lucy was crying into his shoulder, Issei did the only thing he could in this situation. He just caressed her long silver hair that was as soft as silk and was smelling like fresh flowers that made him hug her a little more tightly as her tears were soaking his shirt even more, but he didn't care at all. All that was important to him was to let Lucy release all that pent-up emotions that were inside of her. After more than 10 minutes, Lucy finally stopped crying as she weakly lifted her face from his shoulder to see him looking at her with a smile that made her heart skip a bit and her face to adore a beautiful red color as she felt his hand run down her hair. She would admit later that seeing him hold her like this made her secure and made her want to be held by him even more. She could tell by his firm and yet soft hold on her that he was holding her like she was his treasure. Just how a dragon would protect what was his with all his might. She smiled softly as she remembered that the boy who was holding her was also a part dragon, as he was a red dragon emperor. As she slowly, almost reluctantly, removed herself from his embrace, she could see that he was almost protesting that he couldn't hold her, which made her smile softly at him with a blush on her face. Thank you, Ice. I needed that. Lucy answered before she yawned as she felt herself getting extremely tired. The fight and her emotions were enough to make her needing sleep. Smiling, Issei just nodded before he chuckled at her yawn, which her made go full red this time as she playfully hit him in the arm as he started laughing. Jerk. She mumbled to herself with a pout, but when she heard him laughing, even more, she was red like his balance breaker. Sorry, your face was just too cute to resist. Anyway, you go to bed. I assume that you have a free room here for me to use while staying here with you? Issei asked her as she just nodded with steam coming out her ears as she heard what he said about her. Yeah, there are plenty of rooms here for you to use. I will show you where is mine, and you can take the one next to me, so if you need anything you will know where I am. She answered as she collected herself. Sweet. Though one question. Where are all the servants? I figured there would be a lot of them here. When Grafia comes they are getting their day off since they all agreed that they would leave both of us to have a day for ourselves. I'm actually grateful for that. They kept me sane all this time. Lucy said as she started to make her way towards her room while showing Issei where were other stuff in the castle. As the day was slowly coming to a close and sun was slowly setting and was replaced by a moon, Issei decided to take a walk to recap what happened today, while Lucy was asleep resting from the eventful day that she had. He was rewinding the events of this day, however he was brought out of his thoughts the moment he saw a magic circle that had a Grimoire symbol a little away from him appear. Stepping out of it was none other than Grafia that was dressed in a black shirt with silver straps and light blue jeans with black sneakers. Seeing him, Grafia showed him a smile that was similar to Lucy's, but unlike hers, it showed more of a family smile like a big sister's one. As they both neared each other, Grafia brought Issei into a tight hug that made him go red for what seemed like the 100th time today. I'm glad that you are alright. Lucy can be ballistic when dealing with anyone that isn't me. She told him in a soft tone as she released him and looked at him to see if there are any injuries on him. Yeah, I saw. Though you don't need to worry, I'm alright as is Lucy, she is sleeping right now. Looks like the fight and her emotions exhausted her way too much. Issei answered as he saw Grafia widen her eyes a little. As she showed emotions. She asked in disbelief. Nodding, Issei explained to her what happened after the fight. Grafia was at first shocked that Lucy did what she did, but later smiled widely at seeing that her baby sister was finally recovering. Issei, let's go back to the castle. I talked with Surziches, and he told me it's okay for me to take a few days off to see how both of you are doing. Sure, I was finished with my walk anyway. Issei replied with a small smile. But that both of them started walking back towards the castle that was Grafia's and Lucy's home, Issei asked about the things that transpired back home during his time here with a silvered-haired heiress. To say that Issei was laughing at what he was told would be an understatement. He along with Grafia were laughing while Drag and Elsha were both roarings in his head at what they heard from the strongest queen. Apparently, Rias was demanding to know where Issei was, while the rest of Orc was also in the agreement with her. Though while Rias was fuming at Grafia for not wanting to answer her about his whereabouts, Chelsea, who got tired of hearing her annoying voice, decided to use her gear and stealthily come behind Rias and with a chop to the neck knock her out while saying finally peace and quiet. That made all the members of Orc about to charge her, but were frozen in place by Grafia, who let a bit of her power leak out stopping them in their place. As Rias recovered after about 5 minutes. She was furious, but before she could attack, Grafia froze her completely to let her cool down, making the three girls laugh at Ria's misfortune. Chapter 14. The Scars of the Past. After coming inside the living room, Grafia told him to find a sit and relax while she makes some tea for the three of them as she felt that Lucy was waking up from her sleep. She knew that Lucy was never a sleepy person and that she would sleep for an hour or two max if she was tired. As soon as Grafia returned and poured 3 cups of tea. Lucy entered the room wearing a simple purple top with grey shorts and slippers, making Issei blush madly at seeing her. Seeing his face become bright red made Lucy show off her real smile that made him have steam come out of his ears seeing it. Her smile is so amazing. Issei thought as he followed her form. As Grafia watched them she couldn't help but not smile, seeing the silent interaction between the two youths. She remembered that it was almost the same thing with her, she at first hated Surziches, but after fighting him almost all the time during the war, her hatred slowly turned into love, the same she now saw in both Issei and Lucy. Only difference is their progress was far quicker than what she had. Well, that is something I didn't see in a long time Lucy. You are smiling again, it's nice compared to your fake one. Grafia told her as she had taken a sit opposite of Issei. Thank you sis, it's nice to be free from those thoughts. Lucy answered as she sat herself beside Issei, making both of them blush. Not that both of them minded that they were close. In contrary, it made Issei relax while it made Lucy feel secured. Nodding with a smile, Grafia suddenly turned serious, making both of them gulp with a little fear. They both knew that Grafia won't do anything to them, it was still unnerving to see her serious-eyed. Now I assume that Issei told you about his story, correct Lucy? Grafia asked her little sister. Nodding, Lucy answered her. Yeah, he did, and I can understand why you sent him to help me. You both have my gratitude. Issei just shook his head at that. You don't need to thank me, I would do anything to help someone in trouble no matter how much it took. Lucy turned to look at him and again smiled, making him mentally swear to protect that beautiful smile that she had and to keep her safe from anything that would endanger it. Nodding, Grafia turned to Issei and told him why she has come here. There is a reason why I came here. I know that Lucy most likely tried to tell you why she was in that state but couldn't, so I will tell you. Keep in mind you too, what I tell you doesn't leave this room. Understood? Grafia questioned. Steadying himself, Issei nodded at her, feeling ready to hear what happened to Lucy. As Lucy also steadied herself to hear it from Grafia's point. It all started after the Great War, as three sides were left decimated without their leaders. The descendants of the original Maus wanted to continue what their fathers started, seeing that it would lead to the complete annihilation of the Devil's race. At first, I was like you, Lucy, though that we are the strongest, but as the anti-Satan faction formed, I started to realize that even if we marched with our full force and somehow managed to win, it would be the worst kind of Peerage victory. With a completely destroyed race and with nothing to gain out of it. The other factions would pick off the scraps that were left and there would be nothing of us left. Completely forgotten by the history. Though that was after I met on a field of battle Surziches, and after battling him for hours and hours, I finally understood why he was against the next Great War. Grafia stopped a little to let it settle into their minds, and after a minute or so Lucy's and Issei's eyes went white as they understood it crystal clear. If they went to war it would be the end of devil kind. Clear and simple. Now, after I understood it, I tried to make you both, Lucy and Euclid, understand it also, but you were too blinded by the words of those bastards to hear it clearly. So on that fateful day when the final battle was taking place, Surziches did what he did, though he didn't want to kill him, he was aiming at you to make you unconscious so he could fight Euclid without you jumping in between. But somehow he underestimated Euclid and unleashed more power than he should have, killing him. Grafia told her sadly as both her and Issei saw that Lucy had tears in her eyes. Issei quickly pulled her into a hug to let her know that he was now here for her. After a few moments Lucy collected herself enough for Grafia to continue. Lucy nodded a little too. Grafia made her continue the story. After that event, as you remember, Lucy, you were in prison as a POW, but on both of Surziches and mine intervention you were released. Though after that he tried to apologize several times, but you would just attack him, which would force him to leave, not wanting to hurt you even more than he already did. Oh, now that Issei managed to break through your defenses and make you open up a little, it looks like it all went good. Yes, it all ended up good. You don't have to worry, Grafia, I will do whatever is in my power to keep Lucy safe and sound. Even if it kills me. Issei told them with passion as the fire was burning in his eyes that made Grafia have a big smile, while Lucy was bright red with steam coming from her ears at his passionate words. What is happening with me? Lucy thought as she looked at Issei before quickly looking away as he turned to her. This reaction made Grafia giggle a little. That is nice to hear, Issei, and like both Surziches and I told you, your path to freedom is now on the right track. If you manage to surpass your own abilities and keep doing what is thought impossible, you will be very soon on becoming a high-class devil. Grafia answered him, making his eyes go wide with a big smile on his face at the thought of being free. Lucy, hearing that her sister was helping Issei, also smiled a little, as she knew that he deserved it after fighting two high-class devils and coming out on top. She would only hope that when Issei became a high class that he wouldn't forget her and move on. Though Issei was thinking of asking Lucy to become his queen when he got his pieces, since he would love to have her with him all the time, as he felt that she was the one that made him feel at peace and relaxed in her presence. She so far has been the only one out of all the girls to make him feel this way. As the two of them were in their thoughts, Grafia decided it was time to leave and give them some time for them, as she could see the love forming in them. Grafia would love to have Issei as a brother-in-law. It would be a lot of fun teasing him in the future over this. Now it's time for me to leave. Enjoy your stay here, Issei, this is now your home also, and I don't think that Lucy will argue with me on this one. Grafia told them, breaking their thoughts as both looked at her and nodded. Well, I will come later for you, Ice, but for now take care, both of you lovebirds. Grafia told them her goodbye with a sly smirk before teleporting away, leaving a steaming red duo glued to their seats. Without turning to face him, Lucy spoke. So what do you say we both call it a night and talk about more things in the morning? Why yeah, let's do that. Issei dumbly answered as both of them stood up and departed towards their room. As Issei was in his bed, he started to have a little conversation with Drag and Elsha about what to do next. Since he was fairly sure that from this point on things are going to get even more difficult for him. So Guy, what do you think the future holds for us? Ice, that is a hard question to answer, but I suggest that you keep training and getting stronger so you can continue to protect those who you love and care for. Elsha answered him in a soft tone that made him nod. Yeah, you are right, though that begs the question, when are going to cash in on the deal that we made before the fight with Achikin? He questioned, making Elsha hum for a moment. I think when you receive your pieces then I will tell you, that way we can be for certain that you can do what is tasked from you, fair. She answered him in a sly voice that made him blush a little. Fair, though you know that I will do it even at the cost of my life to bring you back right. He asked only to receive a giggle from her as an answer. I know, but there isn't a rush for it, so you don't have to worry. At that moment Drake decided to make his voice heard also. As he was pleased with his host for battling an opponent of Lucy caliber and on his own no less. Partner, I must say you surprised me with how you handled Lucy. I remembered that she gave quite a grief to those that battled her, but looks like you are growing at an abnormal speed. He praised his host. Thank you Drake, that means a lot coming from you, though I'm worried about what would happen next. Issei said in a worried voice. Before Elsha or Drake could answer they heard a knock on the door that made Issei lift himself a little up in his king-size bed. The blanket fell down into his lap, revealing his bare chest and abs that would make any girl crazy over them. It's open. He said loudly so it could be heard from the other side. As soon as he said that the door opened up to reveal Lucy in her purple PJ, with her hair tied up into a ponytail with a nervous smile on her face. Lucy, what are you doing here? I thought that you were asleep. Issei asked as Lucy moved closer to his bed before sitting on the edge, with her back turned towards him. I was asleep, but I was awakened up by the nightmares that I had of that day, the one my sister mentioned. She answered him sadly. As he lifted himself completely forward, he turned Lucy around to face him, which made her blush madly seeing his naked upper body that was well built and had six packs, before hugging her tight and whispering into her ear, making her blush red even more from his bare touch. It's all right Lucy, what I told Grafia was true. I will make sure that you are safe and sound. I will protect you with all of my might, even if it would spell the end for me. He softly whispered, making Lucy hug him back even tighter than he was her. Thank you. You're the first person to do this much for me. She answered honestly as she felt him loosening his embrace of her. Lucy, is there any way I can help you? He softly asked her with a smile. Nodding she replied in a shy voice that Issei found irresistible. Would you let me sleep with you? Just for tonight, I would feel much better than sleeping alone. Smiling brightly Issei nodded and moved to the side, lifting his blanket to let the Lucifuge heiress enter. As soon as Lucy was in the bed, she quickly hugged him, feeling his well-built body and heat coming from him. He was like the best pillow she could imagine. If it helps tonight, then we can do this every night. I will do anything to help you. Issei responded truthfully, getting a soft nod from Lucy. Issei unknowingly started to hum and sing My Demons to help him fall asleep, since he started doing this after the recent events. However, it also helped Lucy since she found his voice soothing, and within a few moments, Lucy was asleep with a smile on her face. That made Issei smile as well as he gently stroked her hair softly, hearing a few soft moans coming from the sleeping beauty that was next to him. With that, Issei also closed his eyes, falling to sleep after his song. As Issei was opening his eyes in the morning, he felt a weight on top of him. Looking down, he saw Lucy using him as a pillow with her head on his chest while snuggling into his chin, her warm breath that he felt on his neck, making him blush. Her big and firm breasts that were soft to the touch were hard pressed to his side. She had her left arm over him while she had her left leg found its way over and under his leg. Her right hand was under his left arm, while her right leg was close to his left leg with a bend. As Issei looked at Lucy, he started smiling, seeing her have a content smile on her face that made him blush lightly until he felt where his hand was. Blushing a darker shade of red with a tiny nosebleed, he noticed his hand was right above Lucy's ass, and when he moved his hand slightly, he heard a soft moan come from Lucy, making his nose bleed bigger as he felt her firm and soft ass that was making his down twin be wide awake and ready. Though before Issei could do anything, he felt Lucy slowly stir and open her eyes that were now full of life and shinier. As Lucy opened her eyes and let out a yawn, she felt that she was on top of something firm and warm. Looking around her a little, her dark blue eyes met chocolate brown ones. Staring at them for a few more seconds, her brain finally started working as her face started to turn from porcelain white to dark red as she finally felt and understood why she was seeing those brown eyes. As the two of them stared at each other, both having their faces colored in dark red, Issei was completely overrun by his perverted side. He wanted to touch her ass, her big and soft breasts that were so close to his hands, and he honestly wanted to turn her around and take her there for himself. But his self-control that he was working so hard on somehow stopped him from doing that. But that didn't stop his twin from becoming rock hard as he looked at her breasts that were perfect, not too small or too big, they were perfect in size and shape, they were firm, but also soft to the touch. That's what could cause him trouble from the heiress, as from the look on her face and steam coming from her ears felt it, and he hoped that he won't get killed. But to his shock and relieving, Lucy just smiled brightly, her face still dark red as it was, but she felt glad that he didn't try anything to her without her consent. Though she was secretly glad that she had this much of an effect on him since she felt his erection, and that thought alone made her have steam coming out of her ears. Morning Lucy. Issei said in a stuttered voice, while his nosebleed worsened as he saw her lifting her upper body, giving him a quick view of her cleavage that made his eyes go a little wide. "Morning eyes," Lucy told him while untangling herself, but not leaving his side as she again lowered her head to his chest, welcoming the warmth that it provided her. She would personally love to never get up, but she knew she would need to do it soon, though that didn't mean that she couldn't enjoy the moment with Issei. "So how are you feeling now, Lucy?" Issei asked, not knowing how to start a conversation with her as the silence entered as she again laid her head on his chest. Giggling a bit, Lucy turned her head a little and sent him the most beautiful smile he ever saw. "I feel better than ever, Ice. I never slept this good in my whole life." "That's great, I'm glad that you are feeling better, Lucy." Issei answered her in a soft and gentle voice, making her giggle again. "And I thank you for being the one to make me feel better and staying here," she told him. "I will stay here as long as you will like me to stay. And when and if I need to return home, you are more than welcome to come with me," Issei told her, making her eyes go wide and a smile to widen on her face. "You would really bring me with you to the human world?" Lucy asked just to make sure that she heard it right. She felt something deep inside of her starting to burn when she saw Issei smiled. Nodding his head, he answered her with a smile that grew. "Of course, I told you that I will always be there for you, so if that means you coming to the human world then so be it. And you can stay at my place. I'm sure my parents would love to have you as a daughter." Hearing his answer, Lucy couldn't help herself as she quickly hugged him with all of her might while yelling, "Thank you, Issei, thank you, thank you, thank you." That answer erased all doubts and frightening thoughts that Lucy had. She, even in her wildest dreams, couldn't dream of this. Someone actually caring for her, someone willing to be close and genuinely nice to her. It was like she finally found her reason to live and love. Even though her hug hurt him, Issei refused to let her happiness die down because of it. He would endure it as much as needed so that he could see that beautiful smile more and feel her soft and gentle body even more. This solidifies his word to protect her and to make her always have that smile on her face that he was falling in love with. "You are more than welcome, Lucy. Like I said yesterday, I will do everything in my power to protect you and to make you feel happy. And if you coming with me makes you feel happy, then I'm all up for it," he said with a smile that made Lucy want to kiss him, but she refrained from doing it as she felt it would be way too soon for them. "Ice, you are the nicest person that I ever meet," Lucy said in a sweet tone that made him blush. "Thank you, so what are your plans for today, Lucy?" he asked as he slowly stood up, much to her protest. "Well, honestly, I didn't plan anything, so we could do whatever you want," she answered as she also stood up and seated on the edge of the bed. "And what do you say about you showing me around the castle some more, and then we could take a walk through the forest and maybe have a picnic on the meadows that I saw when I was having a walk before Grafia showed up?" Issei asked her, seeing her have a thinking face for a moment before she nodded furiously with a smile. "That's perfect, Ice, I love it. Though let's make breakfast first and then I will show you some more around." "Works for me, I'm pretty hungry," Issei said, and to reinforce his words, his stomach rumbled, making him blush from embarrassment. Giggling a bit, Lucy excused herself as she went to get changed and to give Issei time to do the same. As the both of them finished their breakfast and Issei's tour around the place he would be staying from now on, since he planned on being here a lot more, he couldn't help but be in awe at the things he saw. Every room that Lucy showed him was as big as his house back in the human world. There were at least 4 or 5 swimming pools and at least the same number of game rooms full with every type of games you could imagine. There was also a library, a recreation room with a theater in it, servants' rooms and a training room that Lucy told him could handle Grafia at full power with ease. Issei, though that meeting the servants that kept the place clean and tidy would be a frightening thing, but he was pleasantly surprised when he saw that they were very grateful to him for breaking through Lucy's barriers and making her smile like she used to. Though that, of course, didn't stop them from teasing them a little at seeing that Lucy was holding Issei's arm tightly and her head was on his shoulder all the time, making both of them blush profoundly at that. Though none of them could be angry at them since both of them enjoyed it and secretly hoped to be with other. As the tour ended, they made their way to explore the nature that was calming and inviting to them. As Issei suggested, they packed for a picnic, though Lucy made sure that she was the one that made all of the food and prepared everything for it, as she was trying to impress Issei at her cooking skills and for it to be a thank you to him for his hard work and for helping her. After walking through the forest for about half an hour where they were talking and getting to know each other, they made it to one of the meadows that was on a small hill that wasn't too far from the castle. Making themselves comfortable on the picnic blanket, Lucy brought out the food that she made and some drinks. Looking at what was made Issei's mouth water. It looked like Lucy went all out on this one and he was sure as hell that he was going to eat all of it. "Wow, Lucy, this looks delicious. You really went all out, haven't you?" he asked the silver-haired beauty that was leaning on his shoulder with a smile. "Yes, I tried my hardest to make it. I hope it's good and that you like it," she answered, closing her eyes as she was still leaning on Issei's arm while letting herself enjoy the nature and his presence to the fullest. Until only a day before today, she would have never imagined herself being here and doing this with anyone. Though after yesterday and doing this now, she couldn't imagine doing this with anyone other than Issei, and she would be damned if she let Issei go and going back to her old self. If it tastes as good as it looks and smells, then I have no doubt in my mind that it would be perfect. Issei told her as he took a bite of the food and widened his eyes. Issei tasted all kinds of food and has experienced some of the best and worst foods out there. But this, what Lucy made, just blew his mind. It was perfect, it was almost melting in his mouth and made him want even more. This is the best food I ever tasted. Lucy, you are a fantastic cook, Issei praised her, getting a blush in response. Thank you, like I said, I tried my best as thanks for all of your hard work in helping me. She shyly answered him. That made him smile. Smiling, Issei patted her head, causing the poor girl to have steam coming out of her ears from his gesture. As Lucy opened her eyes, she couldn't help but hug Issei and start eating the food that she made with him while watching the nature in front of them that made both of them at awe. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.